Hi everybody, welcome back to Truth Be Told. I'm Celina Cordoba L, and this is Aseer, and we switch roles today. He's always like, you're always running and, thank you, you're always running and turning on the camera. Let me do it. So, our meditations are a continuation, right? We talked a little bit yesterday, and I wanted to actually follow up and qualify why I even share or why I use my own stories to express what it is I'm trying to convey. Even though I'm a healer in the sense that I have like, it's called Body Talk. I'm a Body Talk certified specialist.
Module 1 and 2.
This one, modules 1 and 2. Body Talk is a neurolinguistic way to deprogram and to reprogram your body, your mind, your neurons, I would say the physiology of how things work. It's almost like acupuncture without the needles. But it goes a little deeper because you're actually dealing with the person in front of you and all of the drama and the angst that they might have picked up that wasn't theirs in life. So, you know, it's hard for me, and I don't talk about the people that I've been so blessed to attract, and I've been so thankful that have trusted me to actually help them drop a load and pick up a new, in a sense. So I don't use, the clients that I've met throughout the years, I don't talk about what I've learned from them and their stories because they're not sitting up here to tell them themselves. I really appreciate when people give each other the freedom to tell each other's stories or don't say them at all. Like if you're not going to express yourself from your center of truth and from what it is you've experienced, then I don't think that you should really use other people's stories to make a point.
Right.
So I've been it's kind of difficult, but I've been very candid about things that I've experienced in hopes to learn and to share and to find out from the viewers if they've gone through similar things and how to basically, how to be in a new space after you've discovered certain things. So the reason why I talked about my female producer, and I kind of dropped the ball because I jump around and talk about a lot of stuff. There is no card holder. There is no notes.
No team but us.
There's
team Cordoba.
There's really not a lot of people. But the point is, after I miscarried and called this sister and tried to have a friend in my life when I needed a woman to be there for me, she never called me back. She never returned my text. And what was weird for me, I was like, wow, I've known this woman for over a year, right? She's talked to me every day. We used to talk to each other. Candidly about her divorce, about the trials and tribulations, about things she was going through. So I really didn't think that it was a bother for me to call her when I was in my time of need, Because sometimes people, they're not there when you need them. But you can't get upset at that. You can be angry only but for a couple minutes, and then you say to yourself, how long am I going to allow this to last? And I don't really want to sit and harbor feelings of anger for more than 24 hours, ever. So I try to, confront what I'm feeling so that I can let it go and move on. But, it's to say that I was there for her. I talked to her from probably 10 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning sometimes. Both of us lost our moms at a young age, so we had that in common. And we had a lot of fun on the phone. And because they made such amazing music together, and I was in support of it the whole time, not by being like an acting supporter, but by really being like, yo, this is amazing. And to be quite honest, since they've worked together, she hasn't made as good as music. And I'm not dissing her, I'm just saying that sometimes people bring out the best in you. So why not stay with the team that brings out the best? Some people don't want to be around that. So for me, funny thing, shout outs to Supernova Slam, because I was with him the day that we ran into her. We were at a festival in Brooklyn. In Fort Greene, at the Fort Greene Park, funny enough.
Where the guards used to have the parliament at.
The parliament, but it's also the space where a lot of dances. It's near Havana Outpost, so a lot of people go there to party, right? So me, him, and Supernova Slam were there. This is like 8 years ago, because shout out to him, because I actually miss Supernova Slam. Haven't spoken to him in years, so I wish him well. But the point is, he was there, and he's like, yo, there goes your sister. I'm like, yo, I just miscarried, I'm feeling a lot better. He's like, yo, I'm gonna go talk to her. I'm gonna go get her. I'm gonna go pull a coat. I'm like, yo, son, she's not gonna want to say anything to me. She hasn't called me back, and she's like, yo, we're gonna squash this. So he runs over to her, goes to talk to her, and the point is, she acted like I never called her.
Wow.
Oh, hey, sis, what's up? Oh, no, well, I've just been moving, and I've been busy, and
They call that acting brand new.
yeah, acting brand new, but more than that, I don't know how to act brand new with somebody that's talked on a deep level with me about interpersonal things. So I ended up seeing her and being like so shocked that she was so phony with me. And I just decided, you know what? Maybe perhaps she's trying to get me to express that I need her or that I'm angry with her for what she's done. But that time kind of passed because a couple months, I think it was like 2 months passed. And by then, the energy and the verve that I had to reignite the friendship died. I didn't no longer wanted to know her. And that often happens in relationships with women. Like sometimes when you're ready to have, a friendship or move forward, the other person isn't. And you have to allow that to take place because you'll end up looking like a thirst bucket. You'll end up looking like you chasing somebody down.
Don't some females want you to do that though?
I think so, but I don't know how to play that game. And if you've heard about the stories about my sister and I, my first relationships with women have always been like, okay, I can see she doesn't want this or that, so let me back up. And the point is that that's an example of like, I didn't do anything to her. I didn't know why she could be and have such disdain for me overnight. If I never stole money, tried talking to her man, told people her business, lied about who she was, I didn't do any of that. And I could tell you honestly if I did, because then I could say her actions were qualified. She had a reason to throw me the cold shoulder, but she didn't. So, it's just to say that sometimes you're there for people at their time of need, and they're unable to be there for you at your time of need. And that, for me, that's another example of like hoping that a friendship exists, but when it dies, I often allow it to die, and then when that person wants to resurrect it, I don't have the patience or the energy to let them back in my life because I was so hurt. And that happens to me with girlfriends.
Forgive them, bro?
Forgiving someone has nothing to do with letting them back in your cipher.
True.
I've forgiven her. We've had a couple talks since then, but they've been very surface and very like not the way they used to be. So I've forgiven a lot of people. The only person that I could say is kind of warranted at treating me a certain way is a girlfriend of mine that, used to be really in my life. And she shared a lot about her sexuality with me and why she couldn't have babies.
A lot of people do.
And what I did do, yeah, they do. What I did do with this girl, I remember one day I was like, well, maybe you can't have a baby because you let a lot of niggas run through you so hard that, you used to bleed for months. You remember you telling me that? And she was like, how could you say that? I said, that's what you told me. I'm here as a reflection to let you know. And this was kind of after we had a falling out. This was the sister that invited Aseer out on my birthday when I was right in front of her. So why not invite me out on my birthday? Because she didn't want to chill with me. She wanted to chill with him on my birthday. So I stepped to her and was like, that was whack delioso. Whack, whack, whack. And she was like, and I was like, you know what? You've always wanted to throw me under the bus for your light-skinned friends. So you should just choose them. Because all of her girlfriends were like...
Oh, I remember this chick, yeah.
All of her girlfriends were like, not a stripper, but what are those kind of girls that go out on dates?
Prostitutes?
Not a prostitute, Aseer. This nigga, yo. Not a prostitute.
Escort.
An escort. All of her girlfriends were escorts. And she would tell me that they were. She'd be like, oh, her, this and that. But then when she sat with them, she would like outline herself like they were her best friends. Right. So one day when she played herself with my birthday, I just came straight out and was like, you're gonna choose your escort friend over me? Well, sister, she done told me all of your business. And she was like, how could you violate? And how could you I said I could violate because you've already violated the tenets of our friendship. And now I'm not gonna front like you don't talk trash about all of your girls, which makes me think you talking trash about me and my mate.
She is.
Maybe you're telling them that we've done something. Maybe you're telling them that I'm so insecure and you have free reign to him, and you know, now that we're all together, I'm just the insecure dark-skinned girl
Exactly.
that doesn't want her. Lies. That
Lies.
wasn't the case at all. I wanted us to all get along. But if you're gonna talk shit about your girlfriends, then keep it real in front of people you talk crap about them
That's
to.
right.
So I blew her up. I was like, maybe you have problems conceiving a child because, you know, you might have endometriosis.
What is that?
Endometriosis is a condition when women have scarification around their uterus, and it doesn't allow easy sperm meet egg connection. And even women that have not had painful sex have sometimes had traumatic issues where they're unable, or thick uterine lining. That can happen without having a lot of painful sex. I just happen to know this girl's sexual history enough to shout her
To
out
make
on
that
it.
diagnosis.
Because, you know, if you're having sex with over 30 men and 10 of those dudes are ramming you so hard that you're bleeding and you are so in a space where you're masking that for love, perhaps you need to be checked out. So after our friendship waned, I told her that. I said, you should get tested for endometriosis. And she, oh my God, she looked at me like I was the next thing close to the devil. But that's how I knew I struck a true chord. Sometimes, you know, after you have a fallout, there's a part of me that's just like, let me keep it 100 real, really, really real. And I did that with her because at the end of the day, I had nothing to lose. She hurt me enough for me to keep it real with her. Now, do I look back at that and say I could have done this and that better? Yes. But do I think that the message was needed to be delivered? Yes. I call that a Virgo spaz out. I'm a Virgo. Virgos are exalted in Mercury, and we can sometimes say really hurtful things. Like my tongue can be worse than an AK-47 to some dudes. So, you know, at the end of the day, I don't spit off at the mouth anymore because I've definitely paid my share of debt for it. Literally gone to jail for cursing out the wrong person. So for me, I did that to a police officer. This was when I was like 19, and he arrested me just because I chose to read him. Let's put it like that. So I've learned, you know, I'm 37. That was when I was 19. I've learned to control my mouth. I've learned to be in control and to be responsible with my words. The same thing. I share stories that we've gone through because that's the only way that I know how to relay messages based on what I've experienced and based on what I know I could learn from and what I could do better. Like a friend of mine who was like really related to, you know, some famous people, let's say. She kept it real and telling me about how her mom really got down. You know, I got her a great job as a manager at my restaurant, and she was like, oh, this, and that. So for me, I sometimes meet people that are kind of known for being certain things, but I find out the backstory.
Right.
I always find out the backstory on
The
people.
real.
And I kind of think that is a blessing in disguise. Like, for example, I had a boyfriend that I was with for like 8 years in high school and college. He was a great guy to me, and I was really in love with him. But he so loved me that he didn't want to keep it real when he fell in love with somebody else. He still wanted to keep me kind of as his side hoe, his main bitch, and still have this woman rock his world, buy him shit. So for me, I've always prayed to get the real, right? So this is a funny story because he never knew this. But the first vacation I went on was in Mexico. I went to this film festival. Now, the probability of me knowing Sally Richardson is nil. But I'm at this Mexican film festival, and the woman that I attract there, I remember smoking mad blunts, smoking L's, going to the head, had a great time. The woman in the swimming pool, she looked familiar, but I didn't know who she was, and I'm not too starstruck like that. So she swims over to me and it's like, hey sis, I'm in the room next to you. And I'm like, oh my God, you're such a beautiful sister, nice to meet you. I'm like, why does your face look so familiar? She's like, oh, well, I was in a low down dirty shame. I said, oh my God, you're that actress. So we had a great weekend. But this is the weekend I cut my hair, I'm about to grow locks. I break up with Shamin, I break up with my man. He moves on with his girl. Now mind you, the herb in me I call this dude one night. This is how I find out he's smashing this girl. But, you know, according to Celina, he's in California with his boy making music. And I believe him, because I believe anybody that I'm in love with. So anyway, I call him, and his phone, he doesn't pick it up, but it picks up. You know what I mean? Like, you can hear the convo. He's with this woman talking about her green dress and her red heels and how much he loves her, and you know, I hear him at the hotel having sex with this woman, going in.
Phone
and
on.
I'm the hurt.
Phone on the whole time.
I'm the hurt, yes. I'm the psycho in the bed, mouth dropped, like, oh my God, I thought he was in Cali. But how good, it's okay, how good is God that he allows me the truth? He says, no, shorty, I'm gonna let you hear this nigga, I'm gonna let you hear this nigga with this woman so that you can move on. So I sit there like a herb for like 2 hours on the phone, listening to him jazz her up. I click the phone off, get all my stuff, move out. According to him, I left him. But according to me and according to the truth, I heard how he was with her. So he comes back from Cali, and it's like, hey babe, got the smock mock turtleneck on in the summertime, because he's hiding his hickeys. And I'm looking at this guy that I've known for 8 years trying to lie to me. And I'm like, yo, dude, you can't lie to me. Like, I know you. You were with some shorty, she had on a red dress, she had on this, you were smashing her out like that. His mouth, he looked like he just met the devil. He was so shocked, because how can I know all this? I didn't tell him you left your phone on, and I heard everything that was going on. So for years, he might have thought I was some voodoo priestess. I don't know voodoo at all. I'm not Haitian, never practiced dark magic like that. But okay, cool, now you see me as this fearful chick. So it's to say, from that story, from that day is when I was able to move forward in my life, because I got the real. And in getting the real, he would have let me believe whatever I wanted to believe. Because there's a part of me that really wanted to believe that he still had a space in his heart for me. He could have had sex with this woman and mentally been in my life still, but he had sex with her and transferred his energy in such a way that I could no longer occupy a space as his woman. So,
thanks, buddy.
A summer later, I'm in Mexico. I attract Sally Richardson. She smokes L's with me. Sorry, Sally, that's what happened, because you know it. But whatever. We having a good time in Mexico, and she's talking about her girlfriend in LA with a cutie that she's dating named Chimene. And I'm like, what?
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
What's the probability?
That I attract this woman's best friend in another country. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait a minute, Chimene? Like, whatever, I'll say his name because I know him. So I feel like I could talk about people that I knew. And he doesn't even go by that name, I don't think, anymore. So the point is, people know who I dated for 8 years. So she ends up telling me about this woman, how in love they are. And I tell her, oh, hold on, sister, I'm the ex-girlfriend. This woman, she looked at me like she couldn't believe that she was chilling with Chimene's ex-girlfriend that they obviously laughed about and talked mad drama about. So now she's taking pictures with my pickaninny hair, and I know I'm the mockery. I know I'm the minstrel. I know I'm the one getting joshed. Right after I told her that I knew Chimene, whole energy switched. She stopped chilling with me, no longer gonna meet me at the club, but this is my life. So what's the probability? Now I'm like, okay, Chimene. He calls me like a week later talking about, stop obsessing over me. Stop obsessing over my friends and trying to drive my relationship. You're obsessed, you're this. I'm like, no, you're obsessed. You're convinced that I'm chasing you when in actuality, energy is coming to me to let me and your friends know that the whole relationship is fugazi.
Right.
So the fugazi relationship might last years, but eventually it's going to be broken because the way it was started was so fugazi. The way you initiate things is often how energy is carried throughout your relationship. So I try to really think about the beginning stages of stuff and be responsible for that. And that's just the way it is. But that's how ill my Mercury is, that I'll attract people to give me the real, because there's a part of me that will stay dumb if I don't find out and figure out a way to move the energy forward. Again, cross legs, sweating, sweating, sweating. And I share all that to say that's where I'm exalted. That's where I have a little bit of God on my side, a lot of God on my side.
Right.
And you know, I'm able to move forward because I don't want to get stuck being somebody's, you know, sloppy seconds, thirds, or, you know, and I understand why other people wouldn't want to be in that situation either. So, you know, I expressed that with the female producer to say she's friends with so many people that
She heard about through us.
yeah, and it's really
Heard
weird
about through us.
because you know when you have fallout, so many people don't know the back endings of the conscious community. Like there's like a whole. I thought about it. I was like, I really know a lot about how a lot of conscious communities got started. And rather than throw people under the bus, it's just to say, so many people like believing the hype, like everybody's supposed to get along and be a part of the get along gang, and I would love it. But because I kind of was a part of the get along gang, and they treated me and my man, literally, we would do stuff and they would be like, separate.
Word.
Don't sit on camera with him.
Word. Now.
But then I see other people on camera, they could have 2 and 3 women sitting next to
Yo,
them.
son's crazy.
So why, when I was working with him, you wanted me to move?
Cause we actually together.
Even if we weren't, why when I start stuff, shit shut down? But when other people started, it can just, because that's just the energy of what we bring. And I have to stop figuring and wondering and thinking. That's what was draining me. That's why I was able to leave New York, because even though we were at the height of so much, there was also so many people that I felt really wanted to do. Wanted to do what he was doing.
They wanted the slot, son. They wanted to be the ones.
So don't
like,
pull
that's
at your
cool.
penis so much on camera.
I'm sorry, I was just
It's
fixing
okay.
my plans.
I think that's hysterical. Men always grabbing their crotch. He's got it. Maybe you have to readjust. I'm sweating.
Yeah,
so obviously
you
he's
just
sweating.
readjusted. Sorry.
I'm sorry. That was even too much. But I like keeping that in because he's like sitting here grabbing and grabbing.
Right, because I'm moving over. I'm like, it's a little hot out here.
Or like the
Kinda
fact
sweating.
that, you know, when we do stuff, he's always Aseer, A-S-S, not Aseer. Some men love talking about how homo and how this. You've got to be strong enough to know what people are going to talk about with you. And that's why I love women that talk about, you know, natural hair, women that still live in their locks. You know, shout outs to all queens that, you know, go against the grain sometimes. And even for me, I told Aseer, I want to interview people. I want to go to like, shout out to Hajar Verrett and Keely Verrett. You know, they're 2 amazing women that, you know, one is an iridologist, the other is a dentist. And I talk to Hajar a lot, and I'm like, yo, can I come? And she's like, yeah, I would love to be interviewed. You have to ask people first if they want to be a part of what you're doing. But then you also have to know that unless you have a team or like a, you know, a room where you can set everybody up, I'm gonna look kind of weird running to people in their places of work to talk to them about the things that I've learned. For example, Hajar is a dentist. She taught me when she filled one of my teeth. She was like, you know, gargling with coconut oil is a very good way to extract toxins from your teeth. And I was like, really? I never heard of that. So as soon as I went home, I looked it up, and she was right. I got my coconut oil, and I started gargling with it every night. And it almost serves as a protectant, like as a film for your teeth. So shout out to Hajar Verrett for telling me about the properties and the benefits of pulling. It's almost like it's oil detox. You use an oil to pull and strip the toxins out of your gums and out of your teeth. And these are the little things that I sometimes want to weave in, but I even get so in a zone where I'm expressing what it is I want to convey that I have to slow down and also take time to say thank you to the women that ask me how I started removing the lint from my hair, because that's what allows me to reveal that I did have lint. And I still do. I have like 2 or 3 locks. I call them my lint locks that are in the back of my hair. What do I do at night? I sleep with a pillowcase on my head. So at nighttime, I get a silk pillowcase. You know, they got those silk pillowcases at dollar stores. Buy one. A handkerchief does not cover my whole hair. So I literally turn the silk handkerchief, turn the silk pillowcase inside out, flip my hair over into it, throw my hair back, tie it at the base, so that at night I'm not collecting a lot of lint in my bed or a lot of stuff on me that's gonna fill my head with lint. I even take the garbage out with it on. All my neighbors laugh and look at me like I'm weird, but it covers my whole head. It doesn't pull my baby hairs and all my little new growth curls. But again, you know, I grew my hair at 21. I grew it a little bit older. I cut my perm out after I felt comfortable making that shift in my life. And I just let it grow from an afro, letting it kink up. I kept it very clean, but I just separated it into the sections that it was naturally going in. So I kind of had bongo locks, which means thicker. I didn't get them twisted and tended
Manicured.
to. And sometimes I wish and I wonder what they would have looked like if I did. But how can you wish for something that wasn't naturally the stage of what happened with you? My hair didn't grow like that, and I like how they are now. Even if it offends some people, I like the fact that pulling and stripping my hair and pulling it into sections, it doesn't work for me, so I don't do that.
Right.
So it's just to say that, you know, you utilize what you know in order to convey. And even though I've met a lot of people that I could share their journeys and stories with, until those people are sitting up here in front of the camera to share their story, it is inappropriate and out of line for me to use their stories to convey a message. So you might find me talking about myself, but I often need to in order to have a greater good, a greater sense of what it is I'm trying to convey. So even Aseer, we were talking about why so much is left out about the Moors. Or if you're a Moor, you can be nothing else. You can't respect Rasta, you can't respect, Coptic Christianity.
Right.
I grew up as a Christian in many ways, but I grew up in the original tenets of Christianity. So, you know, at a certain age after my cotillion, my mama taught me Confucianism and Buddhism and what it was to learn about other religions and why it was important to read the Rosicrucian Bible, why it was important to read the Book of Enoch. You know, things that weren't necessarily taught to me in church.
Right.
So, you know, I have a conglomeration of different sources, and I enjoy reading. I don't get too much anymore now that I have a child, but, you know, everything happens for a reason, and everything in due time. So, apple cider vinegar. If you do have lint in your hair, one thing that I do, there's many women that have so many tutorials online. Shout out to them. This isn't a means to negate what they do. But, you know, the reason why I moved next to the salt water was to douse my hair in the ocean, was to use the properties of the salt to extract. And it really does work. Since I've moved out here, my locks are lighter. All the dirt, when I wring them out in the tub, there is no abscess, there is no resin anymore. And it took me a couple years to get it out of my hair. Living in New York, I would keep it covered a lot. I don't keep it covered in the sun because the sun is here to stimulate my root follicles and to stimulate a healthy scalp. And for me, that's what I enjoy. So, you know, apple cider vinegar though, and baking soda. I combine it in equal parts and make sure that the baking soda is dissolved in hot water so I don't put a whole bunch of baking soda through my hair. But that coupled with, like, for me, I can use a whole bottle of apple cider vinegar with a little bit of baking soda that's been dissolved. Use that and coat and wash your hair through. After you do that, your hair is going to feel very stripped. So you need to, you know, use a conditioner. I make my own conditioner sometimes, but when I don't have time to make it, I do buy herbal essence, mane and tail. I do use a store-bought conditioner just to rinse it through my whole hair, and then I do a deep oil treatment, sit under the dryer. The dryer for me is the sun. I come outside and put it in a plastic bag, sit under the sun and let it get moisturized from some natural oils. But like I said, there's many women that have so many tutorials about how to take care of their locks, but a couple people ask me, and I'm like, I don't answer what people ask me. You wash it through with apple cider, you can wash it through with baking soda. I dissolve it in hot water first, and I even have a spray bottle of just aloe vera that I spray in my roots in the morning and at night. I keep my hair moisturized, and I keep it very moist, very damp. It doesn't smell like wet anything because the oils that I use and the fact that they're exalted through essential oil therapy. A little bit of tea tree oil, some neem, some lavender works really well. So there's ways to take care of your locks. There's ways to not have somebody in your head pulling at your hair. And for me, I have a lot of free form still, a lot of new growth, that I just let be until they attach themselves. And that's how you do it. But I think the reason why a lot of groups don't talk about the history and why the conscious community doesn't even like to acknowledge Aseer and I've watched because I grew up in it, and they don't acknowledge us, and there's a blessing in that. I've started to look at that as a blessing in disguise. And, who cares? Sometimes you're not in the mix for a reason. So I've thought of that as a blessing in disguise because I like to embrace what's been given to me and not figure out why I'm not.
Right.
So,
you gotta
that's
be
what
where
it is.
you're at. Like what I'm learning with this whole thing and being a quote unquote adult, which, is a relative term depending on who you're talking to. It's really about your level of involvement and your level of security in whatever it is you're involving yourself in. A lot of instances, what happens with melanated rich or melanin rich people is the fact that we negate our own progress because we're basing our progress based on how other so-called races or nationalities do their thing. But in actuality, everybody is born under their own vine and fig tree, as the prophets say. So essentially that means that we're all here to do what we're all supposed to do, but we're not supposed to do what we see everybody else doing. Because when we do that, we wind up negating the natural divine and divinity that's put in us to accomplish our goal. So my goal may not be as appropriate, let's say, for everybody else, but at the same time, it's not functioning on a level that people can actually feel like they're being heard. So when people feel they're not being heard, or when people feel they're not in a position where people are paying attention to them, they look around and see what other people are doing, and then they try to base what they're doing or try to take an aspect of that and then flip it.
And that's fine. That's life. That's like...
Right, but see, what I was going to say, not to cut your wisdom,
No, I
conscious, unconscious, we came up in an era they call the hip-hop generation, which back in the day we called Generation X. So based on that, we created a viable means of culture to be able to express ourselves where everybody got their own way of expressing it. And back in the days, or back when things was kind of prime, when people were obviously doing what they saw other people do, the community would come out and be like, nah, that's whack. When PM Dawn got rushed off the stage by Chris and them back in the days. Perfect example. You know what I mean? They was talking all of this flap about him, and then when they did a show, like on the borderline of Manhattan and the Bronx, they thought that they wasn't gonna get seen. And that's what I'm trying to say. We live in this pseudo Facebook
there's a lot of love through the Facebook community.
Social media commercial
it's like
thing
almost
where,
everybody gets along.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, we're in this type of thing where people feel that they could just say whatever they want. They could just go and build and say and diss and shit on people. Say whatever it is they want to say with no repercussions, because they'll just put up a page. They'll just put up a page or something and it won't have nobody's name on it. You know what I'm saying? It'll just be a bunch of disrespectful texts and messages and stuff. But
that wouldn't be allowed years ago.
That wouldn't be real.
What he's saying is that you have a lot of tough guys now through the Facebook community and social media.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Some people feel empowered where they're not known. They can still stay invisible. But to me, though, that can be an egregore. That might not even be a person.
That is. That might not even be a human.
And that's why you have to be careful with who you give your energy to.
Word.
Because there's definitely egregores and energy blocks that take place just to deter people from being positive.
You use that term, egregore. What does that mean?
An egregore is like a conglomeration of a bunch of haters that get together, and that energy is what constitutes the hateration.
Another way of saying a demon.
Or like in Ghostbusters, when you had the film, like the snowman. That's an egregore. It was a collective energy of everybody's hate and disdain put into the Michelin Man thing. That Michelin Man thing, that Michelin Man was an egregore. It was the energy that represented something big, way bigger than just one.
Right.
So I sometimes, I like to believe that no one can do workings on me. But that can be a little ignorant, because if you have a multitude of people that are sending you negative energy, it can sometimes be felt through the ripples of the universe.
Depending on whether or not you are at a weakened state at the point when this thing has been pushed out.
Or open. Sometimes people are open because they act like they care about what other people are going to say about them. And it can work, Like I think about many things in my past, and things have happened to me to teach me how to value myself.
Well, wait, one way to since we're talking about that, one way to do and clean up energy work is onions, yes.
Cut an onion into 4 sections and put them into the 4 powerful sections of your house.
Right.
And the onion will literally suck up and absorb all the negative energy. Mopping your floor with a little bit of sea salt, with some essential oils. And I'm remembering to remind people, yeah, you can cut an onion, throw that in some sections of your house. You can also use a bowl of water if you have bad dreams at night. Put a clear bowl of water underneath your bed, and it will allow your dreams to be a lot more light.
Goat's milk.
Goat's milk. If your baby cries a lot, colic. If your baby has colic, which mine did, for 7 months, oh my God, cried so much. But, indigestion issues, all that. Yes, that's true, but I also think, that's his ring, I also think that it can be, what they come here for. Some kids come here with a purpose, and their spirit can sometimes be quickened to do that. But as babies, you've got to allow them to be babies. So for Amor, he was very vocal because he has something to express. So I'm teaching him at an early age to express himself, because he's come here with an exalted Mercury already. So I bathe him a lot in goat's milk. You take a can of goat's milk at the grocery store, crack it open, draws out a lot of impurities. And it's great for eczema. It's great for children that have, little
It's
cradle.
like oatmeal bath.
It's like an oatmeal bath for your skin. So, goat's milk really works. The same thing.
Creolin.
Mopping your floors. You can use creolin if you live near a botanica. Go inside and ask them for a bottle of creolin. It's very strong. It smells like marker, like magic marker. So you need to dilute these things. But I tried one is, I remember saying this to someone and they were like, "Oh, that's nasty." I'm not saying if you get cut, don't go to the hospital and, go to your basement and collect cobweb. No, that's not what I'm saying. But if you do not have the ability to make it to a hospital quickly, and you have a very surface cut, like something deep that requires stitches, but it's on your hand, it's not a gunshot wound, you can use cobweb and put it over your cut, and it will stop the bleeding. I did it when I cut my hand in Thanksgiving dinner. I was about 14 years old, and we weren't going to the hospital on Thanksgiving. So my mom wrapped my hand up with some cobweb, and it stopped bleeding. Then my aunt came a couple hours later and was able to stitch up my hand. The point is, there's so much that we forget is out there, and there's a lot of new age wisdom that I hope to be able to use this forum to share. So people have questions, I try to use a little bit of what I know to go a long way, and always be in this space of learning more, which is why I would love to work with everybody, but for some reason, that isn't always to people, and ask them and help them. They have to be willing to share their stories with me. They have to be willing to not always look perfect.
Right.
Like there's a lot of couples that I know that have threesomes, and for some reason they don't talk about that on their page. They don't talk about what happens when a woman might have more feelings for their man and what happens after sex. I always want to know from someone what happened after. How did it work? How do you keep doing it? And a lot of people are tight-lipped about that type of stuff. They don't want to talk about it. So, it's up to a couple that's real enough to say, hey, I've experienced that. I know what threesomes are like. I can't say I do because I've never been in one with him. But he could talk to you about what he experienced with the one he was in. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you can only speak about what you know. So for me, I don't talk about things that I haven't experienced and or know. So that is the real. That is why I think it's important to not be so tight-lipped about what it is we've learned. I would love to hear from people more about, you know, the things that they go through in relationships when they've been married for over 10 years. What are the things that they sometimes attract?
But we need to hear it. We need to know.
It works. I talk to a lot of couples that have been together, but, you know, they're so grown, 45 plus, that they're not interested in, you know, getting in front of a camera and
People
talking.
that need to know it is the generations under us and the ones that's coming up. Because, like, a lot of these younger kids and all of that, you be telling them that they need to do this and do that. The more you tell them what they need to do, the less they believe you. Like, these kids today, what I'm seeing is
With
that...
my son, he wants to know why.
He wants to know
I
why.
never knew, you know, my mother's passed. I never knew having pictures of my mother in the house would spark him to always ask me about grandma. And I can't say, oh, grandma's here. I say, grandma's passed to the essence, but her spirit is very alive. I didn't think that I would be talking about concepts of death and passing with a 3-year-old at the time. He was like 2.5, 3. Now he's 5. He just came back from his grandfather's funeral and he was a pallbearer.
This dude was a pallbearer.
He wanted
my
to
father.
see the body. And I called Aseer like he wants to see the body, right?
Yep.
He said, you know your son.
Yep.
But it's to say that I can't allow what fears or what issues I have to be so deep that I energetically pass them on to him.
That's right.
I want him to be in a new space where he is comfortable with things that I might not have been comfortable about when I was a child. But that is the power of evolution. That is the power of wanting more for your offspring.
That's right.
So I'm not afraid to talk to him about things because he's taught me that he's strong enough that in knowing, he'll tell me, oh, well, I know her because I have dreams about grandma all the time.
That's right.
And I'm like, if I didn't talk to him about this, he wouldn't know to reveal certain things to me. So, you know, I really don't want to not ever be able to talk to my son about sex, women, men, what I've done, what his father has done, because your children will be able to read you. And I just think it's important to always keep it really real. So if you've gone through things like threesomes with your mate, reveal it so that we can learn about the journey, about how to do it properly.
How to not get caught up. How to not
people,
break up the relationship.
How to like know who to let in your bedroom.
Right.
How to know who would be over obsessive and compulsive and who won't be. Like I know a lot of couples that their mate has been with like over 30 women, but they'll only act like that they've been together. And that to me is not real. Tell, hey, I'm with the man that's known by a lot of so-and-so and a lot of women like him and they sleep with him and say that. But, you know, to play airs and to act like none of this is happening is ridiculous.
That's lying to people, especially when you bring other people into it. Like that's why with us building, we're building from the perspective of what we have experienced. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking to you about no fantastic fantasy thing. I'm talking to you about real stuff that happened to us. But in that, I'm still protecting those who may have been whack in situations by not naming certain people. Because what will happen is people get away from what we're saying and the moral of the story and want to focus more on it is who the story is about, what it is they do, what do they think about it. I don't care what they think about it, because if they really cared, they'd be here building with us on it. They not. So what I'm seeing also is that a lot of people in our community, and when I say community, I'm not just talking about conscious community, I'm just talking about
the
communities.
World. I don't even like that term anymore.
Right, because
I'm not in it
It's
anymore.
isolation. It's isolated. You know what I'm saying? It puts you in a box that you if you conscious, then you're not involved with any other mainstream or world community like that, and that's what's keeping certain people marginalized to the side. So what they do is they throw a long rod out by using buzzwords and terms that they feel that people in the mainstream may try to catch on to and do, but what happens is people in the mainstream that are attracted to stuff like that, they just wind up stealing these people's concepts and what they talking about, and then make it to mainstream and make it like they're the ones that came up with it. And
that's okay for those people. Sometimes, you know, people will really use what you do as a means to like springboard what they're doing right now, and that's really okay. Like I'm so tired of the community and the this and the that when I'm in the world. I'm not in the conscious community anymore because I'm bigger than that. I really do feel
We're all
that.
bigger than that.
We're all bigger than the communities that feel like they need each other to stay relevant. That's what
Let's call it trap.
Not only that, that's what lonely people do. Lonely people attract anybody to not deal with their fact that they don't want to eat dinner alone.
right.
A lot of people go to the movies with people that don't like them because they don't want to sit in the movie theater by themselves. A lot of people entertain friends that they know don't really care for them because they'd rather be seen with this person based on her beauty than deal with the fact that this person is using you. A lot of people have difficulties just doing things kind of on their own because it looks like they're not really doing it.
Right.
And to be seen with a big group makes them feel a lot more in the know, supported. And this is the dynamics of life. Many people are at their jobs that don't go to the weekly drinking or excursions. And if you don't socialize with the people at your job,
They're gonna start hating on you.
they'll make you feel like you're antisocial.
Yep.
So there's a way you've got to kind of play the game and still dip in and deal with them sometimes. And then, know to leave a little early or know that you don't have to stay in places that you don't feel welcomed at.
Talk.
There's certain women in certain cultures that when they do become pregnant, they're not allowed to be amongst other members of society. They literally are segregated and put in a house to just be with themselves. And when I did that, when I allowed myself to not be around a lot of people, I was able to have a child. So that worked for me, and it was difficult because it made me feel like I gave a lot of my power away. And I might have, if I could really say, I might have by being really vulnerable and susceptible to people showing me love at a time that I felt like I should be receiving a lot. And it didn't happen like that for me. So it's to say, follow your own heart. If you are sitting at home and have a dream of yours that you never actualize because you're afraid of what somebody might say about you, really think about if it's something you want to do and do it. Really use this time to leave the breadcrumbs that you want to be remembered for here.
Right.
And I always think about that, There's so much that I learned from my mother that I'm living and doing now. And thank God I had somebody that taught me how to unconditionally love myself. Because I always think about the things that she taught me. And it was, don't follow fashion. Don't follow people just to be a part of the crowd.
That's right.
Be a leader, because if you always follow, you'll never know what you were destined to do.
That's right.
Those were the things that ring so true to me right now. Or don't feel bad when your girlfriends don't invite you out. Sometimes they might not invite you out because they might be intimidated by your energy.
Or they just want to hurt your feelings.
Or they might not want you there because you're not supposed to be there. Stop being so thirsty for the wrong approval, and you'll find yourself going a lot further. And it's working for me, It's like Tupac. I sometimes, days that I feel really alienated, I listen to Tupac, and I remember Tupac says, if I could do it different, I wouldn't mess with none of these people. And it's not to say that I want to live a life in solitude and isolation, because it's actually very depressing to my spirit, which is why I'm always out. But, I also don't want to need so much from the collective that I'm unable to feel like I have the permission to affect and to think. I've always wanted to be a talk show host, a radio, whatever. But, I don't want to wait forever for my opportunity. So this is to say thank you guys for giving me a platform, for making commentary, for allowing me to feel like my words are ringing true to other people that have had similar experiences. And let me know what you guys want to know about, more of. The details are great. As a Virgo, I appreciate them. All criticism is good, bad and good. And that's what I learned in theater. It's like sometimes you get up and only people are ripping you down. But you do learn a lot through that process. And it's taught me to have a really tough skin. So I appreciate the haters, the lovers, and all of those in between. And thank you very much for the platform, because I definitely want to qualify why I talk so about my experiences, because if I didn't, I'd have to have a whole panel of people up here. And that requires time and energy.
Coordination.
And it else convinced you of.
You ain't never met me personally, there's something wrong with you.
Then it's a good thing. It's probably be best for you to listen to them, because your spirit can't make your own decision.
That's right.
And that's a blessing in disguise. So know that even when you're isolated, or when you feel isolated, it's probably because you're loved by so many. So with that, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna go and play with my son and switch my heels into some flip-flops. And I love you. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. and I'll definitely be back with more this week. Have a great one.
Peace, everyone.